I recently picked up this RM250, and when I found it, it was in boxes. It was completely torn down. Some of the parts had fresh powder coat. For the most part, it was complete. It was missing some things. It didn't have a jug, didn't have a cylinder head. The crank was missing. The forks had already been rebuilt. The frame, the swing arm, the pegs, the brake lever, the kickstarter, all had recently been powder coated, as well as the triple trees. The plastics I ordered, a new set of plastics, the plastics that I came with were pretty old and beat up. But for the most part, it was complete. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you the process. So I'm going to start doing some basic stuff. I think I'm going to start putting some bearings into the swing arm, as well as the linkage, and I might start assembling the triple trees. I'm going to assemble the rear shock. Alright, first thing I did, it was staring me in the face, was mounted the air box, just 2 screws. So I got the rear shock assembled. Now I'm going to throw the triple trees on. So first, I have to find the hardware for the triple trees. Got a bearing here. And another bearing. It's this one. And locking bolt. And I think this is the top bolt. Now let me check the diagram real quick and see if there's any washers or anything else that goes in there before I start putting it together. Obviously we have the bearing on the bottom and the bearing on the top, and then there's a bolt that goes right on top of this before the top part of the triple tree goes on, and then the top goes on, and then a washer, then another bolt. So I'm going to drop this bearing onto the triple tree. Forgot to pack these bearings with grease. Let's take this back off. Let's load these bearings up. Put on the top part. I'm going to leave that loose for now until I put the forks in. I'm not going to install the forks till I change out the oil. Alright, we got the triple trees mounted, we got the bars loosely mounted, put in the little rubber pieces that the gas tank sits on. Saw that I put on the air box earlier, added on a little fender extension. It was missing, I had to order a separate one of those on eBay. So now I'm going to start working on the linkage and the swing arm bearings. I have bearings here and here. I'm using a C-clamp to press these bearings in. I already did all the bearings on the linkage, all brand new. Now I'm doing the swing arm. I just greased and mounted pegs and installed the springs. Next, I'm going to work on draining the old oil out of the forks and putting some fresh fork oil in. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is loosen up this screw, let out any pressure that might be in there. Then I'm going to turn the adjusters all the way down to their softest position. I'm going to do the one here on top and then the one at the bottom as well. And then once that's done, then I'm going to put a wrench on this and unscrew the cap. And that'll give me access. Alright, so I put this in a clamp with a rag around it just to hold it, and I used an electric impact driver to loosen this up. Now I'm just taking the rest of it off. Alright, so now the oil is drained, so I'm going to start adding the new fork oil. And actually the fork oil that drained out of here looked like it was pretty good, so probably whoever had this before me recently rebuilt this suspension and changed the fork oil. Alright, so the forks are installed. And I was missing one bolt, so that bolt's not screwed in because I just painted it to match the other ones. So I'll tighten that down later. Put some of the accessories on the handlebars, put the grips on, clutch, and twist throttle. So now I'm going to move down to the front tire assembly and the brake. Alright, so now I'm refinishing these fork protectors. I'm going to remove the decals, and I have to sand this down. I start with 120, then 220, then 400, then 1,000, then 2,000. And this one is one that I finished. It's an improvement. Start working on putting the bottom end together. I already did the bearings and replaced the seals. I'm going to show you something. If you see on the other side of this, all this damage in here. So one of the gears that was on the clutch basket snapped off. So I'm assuming that's what did all this damage in here. But it's cosmetic. I ordered a new clutch basket, and yeah, the gear that goes on the crank seems like it's fine. Now this thing came with 2 transmissions, came with 2 cranks. There's one of the cranks there. So I'm going to go through and check all this. I already went through this one quickly. I noticed that there was some damage to one of the gears, so I'm going to check the rest of it, and then I'll put them together and use the best parts of both, and then we should be good to go. Alright, so this one, you'll see, it's got some wear. It's Not too bad, but I'm not going to use this one. I'm going to use the other one. Now here's the other one. You can see this one has a little bit of wear up in there, but it's not anywhere like the other one. Alright, so I just went through all my gears and it looks like everything's there and in the correct order. So I'm going to install those first. Let's try this another way. Alright, so let's try this with the case angled upwards. Everything doesn't fall off as I go in. Okay, that's how we go. Alright, gear sets are in. Now I'm going to drop in the crank. Get a little grease. Now I'm going to install shift forks. That one goes there. That one goes there. This one goes in here. To get this gear to come up a little bit. There we go. We're going to put in the shift drum. We're going to align it with these pins on the shift forks. Okay, now I'm going to put shafts in. That came out. Put back into place. There. There we go. Just doing that. Spinning freely. Now I'm going to simulate running through the gears just to make sure that everything's working properly the way that it should. So I have my hand on the other side, so I'm going to feel the output shaft when I turn the drive shaft. It's turning. Now I'm going to go into neutral. That's it. Stop spinning. And I'm going to go into second. Shaft is spinning again on the back side. Third. Perfect. All right, looks like we're good. All right, next I'm going to be putting the gasket on. I'm just going to put a little bit of grease on this first. All right, got the grease on. Just going to put this in place. All right, I just put the dowel pins in place here and here. Now I'm going to attach the other case half. Make sure that the gasket is in place before lining this up. All right, now I'm going to tighten it down. Screws come in from the other side. I'm just going to run these in lightly. Not torquing anything. Alright, now I'm going to torque them down by hand in a crisscross pattern. Okay, bottom end is mostly together. I'm just missing a few more little things. In the meantime, while I'm waiting, I'm going to give this cylinder a hone. I have this flex hone. Now these are size specific. This one is made for, I think, 66 to 68 millimeters. This is a 66.4 millimeter cylinder. I'm going to attach this to cordless drill. I'm going to apply engine oil. I'm going to set the drill to slow speed, and I'm going to make in and out movements as the drill spins. So I have a cross hatching in the cylinder that's pretty much on a 90-degree angle. I'm going to do it forward, then I'm going to do it in reverse, so it makes an X pattern inside the cylinder. reverse. Okay. I'll wipe it and take a look. A little bit more. Now I'm going to wipe the cylinder out several times. And you can see that light cross hatching that we have on the inside of the cylinder. That provides little micro channels for the oil to travel up and down inside the cylinder to provide protection and lubrication. All right, now that the dirt's all cleaned out, I'm going to re-oil the cylinder. Okay, you got the cylinder mounted with the piston. Very smooth. And now I'm going to go ahead and put the head on. It's mostly complete now. Put the fluids in last night, filled it up with oil, added some coolant. No leaks on the floor overnight, which is a good sign. I installed the fuel lines. So that's pretty much ready to go. I'm just waiting for the inner tube of the rear tire. It should be arriving today. I'll be able to install the rear wheel. So I'm gonna put the plastics on and hopefully this thing fires up. The electronics are all hooked up correctly and functioning properly, so I don't have to take the plastics off again. But I want to get it all together just to see what this thing looks like complete. I gave this thing about 10 kicks last night. It didn't start. It was late, so I gave up this morning. I figured I would check to see if it had spark, so I pulled the spark plug, and we do have spark. So now I'm going to go ahead and give it another shot and see if I can get this thing to fire up.